are full into draft take season when that has now become a debate whether Washington will take Tua. Matthew Coller, Courtney Cronin here. And Courtney, I don't think we should waste any time.
Hit it, Jonathan.
I think we should draft Sim.
Who has the quickest twitch? Whose hips are the most oily? Who has the quickest long snap? Hand sizes, wingspans. Oh, no one knows hand sizes and wingspans better than Courtney, our draft scout.
True.
All right. I'm fresh off the combine.
Should we do 3 rounds?
I did a 3-round this morning.
Let's go.
I mean, it was, I woke up, said, man, I just got back from the combine.
Right.
I'm tired.
What are you going to do today?
What am I going to do today? I'm going to have my cup of coffee and I'm going to draft Sim.
Sunny outside, got to draft Sim.
I mean, this is...
Wake up,
draft Sim. I mean, lunchtime, draft Sim. Kendrick, holler at me if you want to come up with a remix to the song.
Draft Sim.
Yeah, start the show, draft Sim.
All right, I'm starting mine right now.
Okay, you're doing 3 round on FanSpeak?
Yep. Okay, so why don't you start off because you already did yours and tell us.
Do you want me to do another one or do you want me to just pull up mine?
Why don't you just roll with the one you did this morning because you tweeted it out. So let's break it down. And while we're breaking it down, I'm going to do mine. Yeah.
All right, so I have a piece going out tomorrow that's just kind of weighing the options that they have at 25. And that's kind of what sparked my idea this morning to draft Sim, or at least to try to... I see your face. You must have got somebody good.
Yep.
If Mekhi Becton fell to you at 25 right now.
No, I know who I'm picking. There's no question about that.
But yeah, so I have something going out tomorrow at ESPN.com just weighing the options that they have at 25 because I think it's very clear walking away from the combine. Of course, you ask them, what are your priorities? I'm like, everybody's a priority, but we know cornerback, safety, and offensive linemen, specifically a tackle, top 3 priorities. I think you could probably throw a slot receiver in there as like 3B or 4, but we also know this team never really has a number 3 or a true slot presence. They try to rotate that around, whatever. So that being said, I went through a draft sim this morning, and Trayvon Diggs was available to me at 25. So I went cornerback early. I was there for Trayvon's interview on Friday morning. He worked out on Sunday. Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman stayed till the very bitter end of the combine. They came back Monday morning, and somebody texted me and be like, wow, they must have really liked the DBs. They were there late last night. And
Mike Zimmer really liked watching the defensive backs. I'm so surprised by that.
So I kind of went into this thinking, all right, let's go off their recent comments of what they said at the combine, specifically about cornerback, safety, and offensive linemen. So that's why I formulated my draft sim this way, where I'll go through each one. So I had Trayvon Diggs, a cornerback.
Well, why don't we talk about your first round pick first? Yeah. And then I'll do mine live, and then we'll go to the second round and third round.
Okay, that's fine.
So let me say this about Trayvon Diggs, is even though he's related to Stephon Diggs as his brother, it's not just about that.
No, it's not at all.
It's similar to another prospect that I think we'll talk about, where there is a connection, but the guy is a great player. And when you look at his wingspan, his length, his size, his athletic profile, he really does fit very well with what they want to do to replace Trey Waynes. You'd be hoping to replace Trey Waynes / Xavier Rhodes with someone who is very similar and can play man against top wide receivers. That's what Zimmer loves to do a lot, play man-to-man. Even if it's not an island corner, it's man-to-man on each side. And he would, I think, want someone like Trayvon Diggs. The only question is whether he gets to 25. Yeah,
because there's very clearly Jeffrey Okudah, who is the Ohio State cornerback. You probably heard about him over the weekend. He hurt his neck jumping for a ball and then decided to go through the rest of the drills. He's a top 10 pick. If he gets outside of the Giants at 4, I'll be very surprised. It's him, and then it's kind of, there's this like gray area, and it's like 20 on down. At least what we've seen in multiple, like Mel Kiper, Todd McShay had a draft projection out today. Because then it goes into the group where it's CJ Henderson, who came from Florida, Damon Arnett, who came from Ohio State, then Trayvon Diggs, and
Christian Fulton from LSU,
from LSU, Cam Dantzler from Mississippi State. There's kind of that second tier. So it's definitely not a cornerback class like we've seen in 2018. There were multiple taken in the first round, including Mike Hughes.
2019, nobody was, right?
Yeah,
I mean, everybody kind of made their way out. It was
the run on defensive linemen. But no, I mean, I think that it's the right pick for them because you have so many needs that you have to address at this position. And you have to kind of wait till free agency settles the dust first, which, you're wondering about Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander, and Xavier Rhodes. Now, I asked Mike Zimmer last week, well, what do you think about potentially having a brand new cornerback unit, like 3 new starters? I mean, I include Mackenzie Alexander in that because they're nickel a lot. So he didn't automatically like dive into like, yeah, that's going to be tough. He kind of like, well, I don't really know about that happening, but if it does happen, they'll be prepared for it. So it's hard for me to stomach the thought just of like, wow, you might have 3 new corners back there, but how much worse could it get than last year?
Well, right, because neither Waynes or Xavier Rhodes played very well at all, and Mike Hughes rotating in still had his issues.
Yeah.
The big question that I have about that is because I do think they can find an outside corner here if that's where they want to go in the first round. In my pick is going to be different here than outside corner, but they can find someone who could play right away, and then you'd have Hughes and Holton Hill and draft pick X, in your case, Trayvon Diggs. But who is going to play the nickel? Is it going to be Hughes? Because Pro Football Focus looked at this, and they found that throws against nickel corners were as valuable as throws against outside corners in terms of your expected points added, wins above replacement, those sorts of things. And Mike Zimmer has long known this with Terrence Newman and with Captain Munnerlyn. That's a position where I think you need to get a veteran to play that. If it's not Mackenzie Alexander coming back, it should be someone else who has played that spot.
Agency. No, I agree with that. And I know that Mike Hughes, the trajectory has pointed. He could be an outside corner, and he's also, I mean, you remember talking to Terrence Newman before Terrence retired and became a coach. I mean, the praises that he sung of Mike Hughes early on, you just didn't hear that about many nickel corners on this team, probably because, you know, in a way they were soured by Mackenzie Alexander not wanting to take on the position early on. And, you know, it took him so much longer, but the mental IQ it takes to play that position, the hard, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, the hardest position to play in the secondary, just because there's so many things that are assigned to you. It's a lot asking, you know, a rookie to do it. If you were even going that route, I think an outside corner is a much safer bet. But think about what happened, or what Mike Zimmer said last week when he talked to him and both Rick Spielman about, you know, that position specifically. Let me pull up the quote really quick, because I think it does kind of weed out the guys that, you know, we think they might be interested in, that like look like a safe bet for them. It's a tough position to play. Think about Trey Waynes' trajectory. He was the highest drafted corner under Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman. He was taken 11th overall in 2015. It took him 3 good years, good 3 years rather, for him to grasp the position. And this is from Spielman. Quote, I think it's one of the hardest positions to play, one of the hardest positions because of the rules that they're allowed to get away with in college. And there are specific physical traits in order to play in Zim's defense that you have to have. That eliminates a lot of potential guys for us too, because it's pretty tailored to what he's looking for.
Yeah.
So throughout this process, we're going to be throwing out names, and people in Egan are probably laughing at us being like, that is not a fit whatsoever. It's kind of like the offensive line scheme fit argument that we've talked about the last few years.
I'm just saying Will Hernandez probably would have been better than what they've run out there at left guard.
No, I do not doubt you about that at all. But, you know, for the type of, you know, it's hard to play corner in his defense. And usually that's why we don't see guys come in right away. Even Mike Hughes. I know he lasted 6 games into his rookie year before he got hurt. The trajectory was there. He honestly, I feel like out of all of these guys that you go back and read about with their rookie year, like Zimmer didn't sing the praises of corners as rookies the way he did with Mike Hughes. So I just feel like it's sometimes a little bit rare to get that type of guy early on. You're expecting this to be more of a project, but they really don't have any choice right now. If they do end up kind of clearing house one way or the other, they've got to get guys, whether they're currently on the team in Holton Hill, Mike Hughes, maybe even rotating Chris Boyd in an outside corner, and then figuring out what they're going to do at nickel.
That's right. I think if they draft someone in the first year, that player becomes a rotational depending on where they are at. That throwing them out there and asking them to be a shutdown corner right away is probably too much, but also being super afraid of it when it's a very talented player might not be a great idea anyway, either, because if you look at the free agent market, someone like James Bradbury, who is okay for Carolina, there's talk that he's going to make $15 million. And if that's going to be the going price for someone who's average, who's probably just like Trey Waynes in terms of where you'd rank them, or maybe a little bit above, the Vikings simply cannot afford that. You can't afford to overpay at pretty much any position in free agency, even if you make some cap space for yourself. So you might just have to say, all right, if you're going to draft Trayvon Diggs in the first round, into the fire you go. And you'll rotate with Holton Hill. You'll rotate with Chris Boyd, who they really seem to be high on. They always mention him. That's how you kind of figure it out when they always go out of their way to bring up that they like him. And having talked to Chris Boyd a few times, seems like a bright guy. He would pick up on what they want to do. But even then, you're asking a lot from someone who's a 7th round pick to be part of a rotation. I like the idea of drafting a corner here. I think it's the second most valuable position in football outside of quarterback. Is being able to pass and stop the pass is how you win. And to have no starting outside corners with a lot of experience, I mean, you need to start rebuilding that. Yeah. I think fans would be like, really? Another corner?
I don't know. I feel like fans are educated enough now to know that it's no longer a cliche talking point of the draft. Oh, this team always drafts corners. Well, they really need one right now.
They do.
And I feel like the educated fans understand that while it's not the most exotic pick, it's a necessary one. And we're going to see here in free agency as these things unfold, once the legal tampering period starts, and really by the start of free agency, we will know, because Trey is a starting caliber corner. Yep. He will make in the $10 to $14 million range, if not even more than that.
That's what's hard about this is
figuring out with this team specifically because of all their free agency dominoes that haven't fallen yet.
We'll have a much better idea when we draft Sim. Not that we're going to stop or slow down, but when we draft Sim after free agency in those weeks leading up to the draft, then we'll really have an idea of what the specific needs for right away and down the road are. All right, here's who I'm taking with 25th. Tristan Wirfs dropped to me in the first round. I'm surprised by that because he is ranked by Fanspeak, which is where we're doing these fanspeak.com. He's ranked as their 7th best player, but he dropped to me. Now he is either a right guard or right tackle. So even though he tore up the combine, it's not a left tackle like Mekhi Becton or Andrew Thomas. There's a little less value there. This would mean taking Wirfs and putting Brian O'Neill over to left tackle and saying goodbye to Riley Reif. We'll enjoy your cap space. So I am drafting Tristan Wirfs, and I left Trayvon Diggs and Antoine Winfield and Xavier McKinney all on the board, even though those were other guys that you could go after. Also, now this has shown up in quite a few draft sims, and I'm not sure this is realistic, but Jordan Love was on the board for me at 25.
He was on the board for me also at 25. I was curious as to, I mean, obviously, you know, the order from there is Burrow, Tua, and then Justin Herbert, but how much further would he fall? I don't remember what the rest of my draft sim looked like. I'm curious now that you selected him. Or you selected Wirfs. Where did Jordan Love fall?
Okay, I'm going to figure that out right now. He did not get taken in the first round, so I'm about to start the second round.
Okay.
I think that there's enough buzz for Jordan Love that he does get drafted in the first round. Even more so than Justin Herbert. The more that NFL people look at Justin Herbert, I wonder if they'll start to back off a little because his tape isn't very good. And Sage Rosenfels watched him in the workouts and said he looked pretty stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Where Jordan Love had reportedly really great interviews, had a great throwing session, and probably helped himself. But Jordan Love also threw a ton of interceptions for Utah State. And when guys don't have great statistics...
He had, 17 his junior year?
Yeah, one of the leaders in the country in interceptions at Utah State. You do question that, even if he can do a lot of other things well.
Isn't that the argument against Jalen Hurts, too?
Well, Jalen Hurts put up the big numbers, though. He did put those up. But
I also think that you're looking at it wondering about the interceptions of anybody leaving college when that number's that high.
Yeah, he had, I think, 10 for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, so it was double digits, which I guess is, if it's lower double digits, but Love had 19, 17, something like that.
The question with Hurts is, does he really have the arm strength is one? Can he be a consistent enough passer? Is he a first read and run? But there's a little bit of misconceptions, I think, sometimes with that because at least according to Pro Football Focus, 70% of passes in the NFL are first read.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 7 out of 10 is first read, then I'm not going to say, he doesn't get over to his 4th progression, which you see that stuff on Twitter sometimes.
Most quarterbacks are half-field read guys anyway, especially early on.
Right. And even Mike Zimmer was snarky about John DeFilippo and how much they were asking Kirk Cousins to read and reset and all those things, and said it was better for him to have things like a 1 or 2 receiver progression down the field. So I don't value that super high, but the throwing is an issue for Jalen Hurts, and the interception certainly a problem for Jordan Love.
I stand corrected. So his touchdown interception ratio is 32 to 8.
And he ran for 20 touchdowns too.
Yeah,
so
I mean that's part of it.
He put up great numbers. I'm trying to see in this draft sim, Jordan Love went to the Colts at 34. Hey. So if you're the Vikings at 25, and you go into a meeting with Kirk Cousins at the combine, and his agent says, look, guys, we're going to wait till Mahomes signs, and then we're going to want that much or close. And the Vikings go, oh, my God, really? Are you serious? You're going to want Mahomes money? Yeah, we were in the Pro Bowl, and we won you a playoff game. If you're at 25 and a really exciting quarterback prospect is there, if Cousins has already told you the price of poker and it's too high, then I'm drafting him.
I don't fault you for doing that at all. I think you can wait. You can do first round or second round for a quarterback if you know Kirk is not taking the extension before the 2020 season. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do because you need to be prepared either way for 2021.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be doable no matter what. Even if Kirk says I'm signing a 2-year contract extension, drafting a quarterback at some point, if it's Jalen Hurts in the second or third round.
I agree with that.
Every draft sim anyone has sent me from Vikings fans, which is now we're reaching like 24 draft sims that people have sent me just from the beginning of today when you tweeted it out. They all have a quarterback in there somewhere.
Smart.
And so I think Vikings fans have a good sense for how important that is.
And it's not even